Norwegian Wood and the Small World We Build. Today, I want to talk about a book that didn't just feel like something I read. It felt like somewhere I went. I recently finished Norwegian Wood, and it stayed with me in this very quiet way. Not loudly, not dramatically, just gently, like a memory that keeps resurfacing when you least expect it. And I want to start with something honest. Sometimes when the life around you feels out of control, not in an obvious, chaotic way, but in that subtle, unsettling way, you start craving a smaller world, a world that doesn't ask you to explain yourself, a world where you don't have to think the way everyone else is thinking, where you can lay back, breathe, and float like a water bubble. For me, this book became that small world, not an escape exactly, more like a place to rest, a place where calm mattered more than happiness. Because one thing this book understands deeply is that happiness isn't always loud or bright. Sometimes what we're really searching for is calm, a quiet steadiness, a moment where nothing hurts more than it has to. Norwegian Wood is full of loneliness, but not the kind that begs for attention. It's the kind that simply exists. The kind that shows up when you're young, surrounded by people, and still feel slightly out of sync, like you're walking through life without a map. Toru, the narrator, moves through the world mostly by observing, listening, remembering. And at first, that distance feels safe. But the story gently reminds us that distance can also be a shield. It protects you, but it also keeps you from fully touching life. And the relationships here feel fragile in the most human way. Love isn't clean, it's uneven. Sometimes you love someone more than they love you. Sometimes it feels like they passed through your life more than they'd stayed. What stayed with me most is how the book treats memory. Memories here aren't warm or cruel, they're both. They comfort you, and at the same time, they ache. They're not reliable either. They bend, they blur, they don't tell the truth perfectly. They tell your truth, and maybe that's how we survive, by burning memory as fuel, by holding on to moments even when they hurt, because forgetting would feel worse. There's also this quiet understanding in the book that loss isn't separate from life. Death isn't treated like a dramatic opposite. It's treated like something woven into living itself, something always nearby, something we learn to carry instead of conquer. And underneath all of it is this very human fear, not just of losing people, but of being forgotten, of wondering whether anyone will remember that we existed, that we stood next to someone once, that we mattered in a small, fleeting way. What I appreciated most is that the book never pretends truth can fix grief. Understanding doesn't heal everything. Some sorrows don't disappear. They just soften over time. And somehow, that honesty felt comforting. Reading this book felt like sitting next to a friend who doesn't require conversation, a friend with no strings attached, someone who understands silence, who doesn't rush you, who doesn't need you to be cheerful or resolved. That kind of companionship is rare, and that kind of coziness is real. By the time I reached the end, I didn't feel like I had finished a story. I felt like I had closed a journal that belonged to someone else, and somehow, parts of it had become mine. The ending doesn't offer answers, but it offers truth. And sometimes truth is enough to help us breathe. So if you're thinking about reading Norwegian Wood, I don't think it's a book for every moment. It asks for emotional space. It asks you to sit with ambiguity, with feelings that don't resolve neatly. But if you're in a reflective season, if you're craving calm more than happiness, this book might feel like a companion. For me, it felt like a secret to keep, and a secret to tell. Because once you find something that gives you that softness, that small world where you can float for a while, part of you wants to protect it, and another part wants to whisper to someone else, you're not alone. This exists, and maybe that's what stories are for, not to make sense of everything, but to give us somewhere safe to breathe when the world feels too heavy to hold.